Jonas Max Ferris, John Tamny, Bob Iaccino. Bob, ending with you, begin with you. Is it your sense that besides the drama of the last hour, that the street is worrying about a government fix for what happened or what was allowed to happen at Facebook, and that it extends beyond Facebook? So a lot of your colleagues, not you, mind you, freak out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what it is, Neil. That's what's happening as you talk about Mark Zuckerberg potentially testifying. He's awkward on stage at his own pre-prepared speeches. I think Congress, quite frankly, with the bank of lawyers, would absolutely shred him, and it's going to look bad. So I definitely think that's what Wall Street is looking at. And from the volatility perspective, we just had an unprecedented run, a decades-low run, where the average daily range of the equity markets was about 0.8%. And historically, that kind of a run in low volatility is followed by a run of high volatility. So you might be looking at 6 to 9 months of these kind of moves.
You know, John Downey, when you look at this, I mean, we were heralding a little more than 24 hours ago, actually a little more than 2 hours ago, this notion that the president will get his way on these tariffs, that the Chinese are blinking, and that they're going to concede something, give something, either buy more semiconductor chips or that kind of thing to try to even the gap between our two countries. Good luck on pulling that off. But that this is bigger than trade. This has more to do with the sector that has led this rally that might be kind of coughing, right?
Well, yeah, when you look at Microsoft and Facebook, you're looking at two of the 5 most valuable companies in the world. And so suddenly we're hearing about the possibility that regulation from Washington is on the way. Let's be clear about that, what that is. We're talking about people who could not get jobs at these companies suddenly having a say in how they're run. Is it any wonder that investors are spooked? Add to that the fact that I think the markets are saying that the only closed economy is the world economy. When you shut off China, you shut off the rest of the world for the U.S. to export to also.
You know, we talk about these extreme days, Jonas, and I know you and I over the years have seen that, where one day, you know, an industry can be a darling, suddenly the next day it's a pariah. Which is more accurate, the sell-off that we saw in technology, particularly today, or the run-up, particularly in that sector yesterday?
Well, I think that fear is always there at technology. That's a sector that has fallen out of favor in the past.
Absolutely.
And it can just fall 50%. It's probably the single most risky sector because of innovation that goes on. And just the stocks get overpriced, and then people all of a sudden are not in them. We saw a lot of hot money going into these tech funds recently, just like in 1999 and 2000. I think the fear really here now is just that. It's what kind of actually what I was saying. They're fast-growing companies. Investors are worried they're formerly fast-growing companies, that a lot of them were making money essentially spying on people and selling that information off. At least that's what it's going to look like to the government regulators when they finally see what's going on in Silicon Valley, an area that's gotten very little regulation compared to, say, Europe, where they're always shaking down these companies for something. That might be happening or starting to happen here between the car crash, between Facebook with the election stuff and this. It's just they're just going to pounce, and they're not going to like what they see if they even understand it. And we might get a mishmash of rules that are going to bring this business model to a grinding halt for the companies that live off of it. It's not everybody. It's more Facebook than like Apple. But these companies, they give you free stuff. It costs money to host all the servers where you put up your videos, and they make money by watching you. It's like having a community center and having microphones everywhere and recording people and then selling that information to the highest bidder. That's what the business model is going to look like to people in Congress who don't understand it, or senators.
Yeah, I think you're a little cruel when you say they couldn't get a job at any of those companies. I think it's a little mean, but I understand where all of you are coming from. But, you know, Bob, I'm looking at this and I'm wondering the pressure that suddenly is on Mark Zuckerberg right now. It's not only about trying to hold up his company and image and reputation. Suddenly now you have an entire industry that might be hanging on his every word, because while they would love to see a competitor under duress, they're beginning to realize, hey, we're in on this too.
Well, to your point earlier, Neil, I love the comments we've gotten so far out of this panel, because this is not really news that they have stolen your data. I mean, Facebook has been stealing your data, Twitter's been stealing your data, Snapchat's doing it now. I'm not on any of those except Twitter because of that. It's not news that they've been making money off of your data, and the average American doesn't seem to care about it. And when the government gets involved, I would much rather the government were regulating the NSA than they would be Facebook, because people are voluntarily giving their data to Facebook in exchange for the platform use. That's something that's in their terms and is pretty well widely known.
I'll tell you, touch
but
on
you're right,
something,
it is the business model,
yeah,
Neil.
but, you know,
it
John,
is the business
I'm reminded, that's a very good point. I'm reminded of the view that Scott McNeely had, who used to run, Sun Microsystems, that if you want your privacy, get over it in this day and age. I'm paraphrasing here this notion that with high technology and the convenience it brings you, whether it's Facebook or some of these other entities, you will surrender some of that. And there will be incidents that will come up now and then that will make you question, what's that balance? That is going to be driven into focus right now. And imagine whether there are congressional hearings in the case of Facebook or an FTC investigation looking at its books. That magnifying glass will be most unwelcome for this industry. What do you think?
Well, McNeely got it right, but I'll just add, in the case of Facebook, you got that for free. How do you think that Facebook was paying for itself other than wisely using your data
You're absolutely right.
and actually enhancing what it gives you precisely because it uses your data? And so I think it's essential that Mark Zuckerberg remind Congress to mind its own business. That I've got two.
I don't know, because this extends to a Tesla, right? I mean, when the government is looking into a crash that involved a Tesla vehicle a week or so back in California, on top of what Uber is saying, we're going to discontinue these driverless tests for a while. I think it's maybe bigger than any individual company. I just wonder where that goes. Jonas, what do you think?
Neil, the business has evolved slowly but questionably. It used to be controversial to sell search ads that were based on your search traffic. Now that is like the least of their problems with what they're doing. The problem is this evolution probably needs to be fixed. I don't know if the government's going to be able to do it. They could hurt the industry.
We will watch very closely. Gentlemen, thank you. Last second notice for all coming on here and trying to make sense of this crazy world. Good job, all.